on satellite, on Freeview, on cable, on radio, on mobile, on the web and around the world. This is First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7.
Transforming Colombo. Visiting UAE Foreign Minister pledges support to develop Sri Lanka's financial capital as the strongest hub next to Dubai. Assuring peace and reconciliation. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe visits Gaul and directs officials to implement the law against wrongdoers. Simplification of the tax regime. Lack of understanding of policies pertaining to New Inland Revenue Act has created an unpleasant situation, cites Commissioner General.
Simplifying the tax system remains a challenge.
Attracting foreign investment. Dr. Pavan says Sri Lanka must make use of its unique position as an essential element of rejuvenating the ancient Silk Route.
Sri Lanka being the southern tip of the Silk Road.
Miss World 2017. Manushi Chiller brings the crown back to India after 17 years. Bring you news from home and across the world. This is First at 9 on Other Derana 24/7. Good evening, I'm Katharina Chang. Now on to your top story tonight. Sri Lanka and the United Arab Emirates pledged to bolster economic ties and improve cooperation in financial services as part of the ongoing visit of the UAE's Minister of Foreign Affairs to Sri Lanka. Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation Minister of United Arab Emirates Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan met with President Maithripala Sirisena at the President's house last evening. Zayed Al Nahyan drew his attention to the immense support that Sri Lanka can receive from Dubai towards the vision of transforming Colombo as the strongest financial hub east of Dubai. The visiting UAE minister also told President Sirisena that 2.5 million Sri Lankans currently employed in the UAE have contributed immensely towards the economic development of the country and play a fundamental role in bilateral diplomatic ties. Discussions also focused on whether bolstering economic ties in the spheres of tourism, the hotel sector, financial services and aviation. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe emphasizes that firm legal action will be taken against those who are responsible for violent extremist incidents. The Premier made these remarks during an observation tour of the Gaul district today, where tense situation disrupted daily lives in the area. Meanwhile, the police curfew that was reinforced last evening in 7 Grama Nilladhari divisions in Gaul district was lifted at 6 this morning.
Following the escalation of a tense situation in Vidanagama area in Gintota in Gaul district on Thursday, police took immediate measures to beef up security by imposing police curfew in the 7 Grama Nilladhari divisions, Kurunduwatta, Mahahapugala, Balipiti Modara, Ukwatta, Gintota East, Gintota West and Piyadigama. The police curfew was later lifted at 9 AM on Saturday after 9 hours. However, the police curfew was reinforced at 6 PM yesterday for 12 hours. Other Derana observed that stores which had been closed due to the unrest were reopened today. Meanwhile, a special discussion on the unrest was held yesterday at the Gaul District Secretariat. The President and Prime Minister had instructed the relevant subject ministers to provide compensation for all property damages.
The government will take a definite decision regarding the arrested individuals on Monday. Some websites carry fake reports saying some have died during the unrest. 5 of the hospitalized are not in critical condition. 66 houses, 10 vehicles and 23 stores have been damaged. We have informed all the field officers to make reports on these property damages. The government will provide compensation for all those damages. Our priority is to control the situation. The Army, Navy as well as the SDF officials are already deployed in these areas and Air Force officials are on standby. We took action to tighten security on Thursday night, thinking the situation was under control, but unfortunately it worsened again. But necessary security measures are in place until the situation eases. If needed, we will deploy more security.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe engaged in an observation tour in the Gintota area today. High-level public officers as well as security officials also joined with the Premier. Prime Minister assured residents of affected areas that the security measures have been taken.
Because of this situation, we will have to deploy the STF, police as well as Triforces officials in the area for next week or two. We also need to ensure the peace between the two parties who are involved in the matter. Then we'd have to find out who was behind this incident. There are extremists in all religions and communities, and these people can cause so much damage. This happens in every country and we need to be able to address them. I asked for a police report regarding the incident. I have given instruction to the subject minister to take necessary legal actions against those who are responsible.
Views continue to be expressed in the political arena over the submission made to the Commission of Inquiry on Bonds regarding the revelations made through surveillance of telecommunication devices of parliamentarians on their affiliations with Arjun Aloysius.
These are the thieves. It is not us who say that. It is the Bond Commission. This was the biggest theft in the history of Sri Lankan politics. The theft of around 100,000 rupees through the construction of a road is visible and road can be reconstructed. But this government has robbed to such an extent that the economy is irreparable. Those who pretended to be clean have been thwarted. The telephone communications of not only the parliamentarians in COP but also all 225 should be checked through a court order. We know that there are many parliamentarians of the joint opposition who had connection with Arjun Aloysius. We proposed the investigation of all dealings between Arjun Aloysius and parliamentarians irrespective of their time period. If we can find the truth by investigating telephone communications between Arjun Aloysius and members of parliament, then it is a legal proceeding. We believe it is wrong to hold this proceeding on the pretext of parliamentary privileges. The Prime Minister will arrive at the Bond Commission to give his testimony on the bond issue. We accuse not only the footnote gang but also all UNP MPs of taking money from Aloysius. For the first time in the country's history, ministers are being summoned as witnesses. No UMP minister hesitated to go before the Bond Commission when they were summoned. All are under the law. The Prime Minister himself stated recently that he is ready to give evidence if it required. For the first time in history, the Prime Minister himself came forth to give the evidence. Did the previous rulers have the courage to appoint such a commission? According to directives in the 50th clause of the Act pertaining to parliamentary privileges, the Speaker must intervene to carry out a full investigation to take action against relevant parliamentarians on whether they present false information to COP, withheld information, or whether any influence was exerted by the respondent Arjun Aloysius of perpetual treasuries. At present, revelations on the bond issue have spread across the world even more than in Sri Lanka. The opportunity costs incurred through this exceeds 1,500 billion rupees. The Bloomberg Index lists Sri Lanka among the countries most dangerous for investment. Such a grave downfall has never been observed before, not even in the height of the war against LTT.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa claims that parliamentarians who are facing allegations regarding the central bank bond issue have broken the public's trust. He made these remarks to media following a visit to the Asgiri Mahavihara temple in Kandy today.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa called on the Deputy Secretary of Asgiri Mahavihara, Venerable Narampanave Anandathera, this morning. Subsequently, he called on the Chief Prelate of Asgiri Chapter, Most Venerable Varakagoda Sri Jnana Ratanathera, at the Asgiri Mahavihara temple.
What has to happen now is to hand over findings to the Attorney General's Department in order to begin the legal process. If we were involved in such a transaction, we would already be in prison, but nothing has happened against those who are responsible. COP has broken the trust of the Parliament by divulging sensitive information. It wouldn't be right for them to remain in Parliament after doing so.
Meanwhile, the former president also visited the chief incumbent of the Gatambe Sri Rajopavanarama temple, Venerable Kappetiyagoda Sirivimalathera, today. Following the visit, former President Rajapaksa replied to questions raised by journalists.
We will contest in the election as one party. There's nothing to divide in the SLFP. I wasn't the one who divided it. Who handed over the party to the UNP and Ranil Wickremesinghe?
Meanwhile, yesterday, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa also called on the Chief Prelate of Malvatta chapter, Most Venerable Tibbatuwa Sri Sumangala Thera.
Former President Chandra Bandaranaike Kumar states that the government has created an environment in which those involved in corruption are revealed before the people. Former President Kumar made this statement addressing a meeting of the SLFP in Minuwangura today.
When the leader becomes a thief, his followers become thieves too. Our President Maithripala Sirisena is an honest person and he never allows theft. There are thieves in both parties, the UNP and SLFP. But today it is only thieves of the UNP that are spoken of. Do not take politics as a business. If you can't be honest, don't enter politics. I do not admit making telephone calls during a respectable duty. That is wrong. It will take us years to teach these ethics. In developed countries, if a corrupt act is committed, the relevant minister resigns. This never happens in Sri Lanka. In this case, they should be forced out of politics.
Minister of Power and Renewable Energy Ranjit Siambalapitiya says the government is considering solar power as a solution for the energy crisis. The minister made the remark during an event held in Colombo yesterday.
Energy conservation and generation of renewable energy has become a stiff challenge for us. We went through a challenging era in providing electricity to all. Many did not notice the challenge we faced because of the systematic process we undertook. On the 21st of this month, we will reach the milestone of having generated 100 megawatts through solar power in a program carried out under the patronage of the President. We faced many obstacles at the inception of this program. Consumers and technicians were not ready for the new plans. It was a new concept even for the CEB and the ministry. However, we succeeded step by step.
A man was found dead of gunshot wounds at Kashru Gardens adjacent to Nalanda College swimming pool complex in Colombo 10 this morning. The victim was identified as a three-wheeler driver named Abdul Aziz Sheikh Rilwan, a 49-year-old father of 5, a resident of Maligawata. Footage of the incident was recorded on a CCTV camera of a nearby residence. Police suspect an unidentified individual had fired gunshots while Rizwan was driving the three-wheeler and fled the scene. While the magisterial inquiry took place around 2:30 this evening, further investigations into the incident are underway. Let's now take a look at some other stories making news across Sri Lanka. A group of parents of medical students of state universities as well as SITEM called on members of the Mahasangha yesterday to express gratitude for their assistance in addressing the SITEM issue. The group of parents called on the chief incumbent of Gataway Rajopavanarame Temple, Venerable Kapitiyagoda Siri Wimala Thera, the Anomic of the Askiriya chapter, Most Venerable Vadaruwe Upali Thera, and the chief prelate of the Ramani sector, Most Venerable Napane Pemasiri Thera. Public health inspectors launched a campaign yesterday to inspect 110 food outlets in Muskelia, Samimale and Norwood prior to the commencement of the Sripada season in a bid to safeguard health of devotees. Court cases were filed against 18 businesses for violating health and safety standards. Heavy fog enveloped several locations along the A9 highway this morning. Residents claim the fog occurred due to dry weather experienced in the past few days. The dead body of a woman was discovered along the Kapumgoda coastline in Negombo this morning. Police suspect that the woman was murdered and later dumped into the sea.
You are watching Sri Lanka's #1 news channel, Derana 24/7.
Former Sri Lankan ambassador and permanent representative to the United Nations, Dr. Kohona says Sri Lanka must make use of its unique position as an essential element of rejuvenating the ancient Silk Route if the country is to attract serious foreign direct investment. He made this remark at a recent media briefing held in Colombo to announce a Sri Lanka Economic and Investment Conclave 2017.
The Sri Lanka Economic and Investment Conclave will be held on the 28th and 29th of this month and will see participants from across the world.
Establishing an investment in Sri Lanka provides the investor, subject to certain constraints, to access these two markets. India is a huge market. The middle class in India now exceeds 300 million. Pakistan has a very prosperous middle class as well. So in order to access those markets, Sri Lanka should be positioned as an ideal spot to place their investments in. This is something that we need to focus on. Sri Lanka as an attractive investment destination, not only because of the market that Sri Lanka provides, but also because of the market that it provides beyond its shores. We have always talked about Sri Lanka being the southern tip of the Silk Road. Now it's time to rejuvenate that Silk Road.
The Commissioner General of the Department of Inland Revenue, Ivan Dissanayake, says that the main reason behind the general public's resistance to new taxes in Sri Lanka is due to the lack of understanding of policies pertaining to the new Inland Revenue Act. Speaking at a recent seminar on Budget 2018 proposals, the Commissioner General added that simplifying the current tax regime is the biggest challenge faced by the government.
The overall revenue collections has declined over the past decade. At present, the direct tax to indirect tax ratio remains at the 20 to 80%, making the tax more burdensome to the poor. Therefore, as per the government policy, it's expected to develop the revenue collection strategies more focused on adjusting the direct tax to the indirect tax ratio to become 40 to 60% by 2020. Although the good qualities like equality, transparency, novelty and the efficiency can be backed by the means of the technology and dedicated staff, simplifying the tax system remains a challenge. A good tax system requires good tax policies as well as good tax administration. Because the majority of the community is not in a position to understand the broader benefits that tax can bring. If the common man were more informed about the taxes and tax policies, they might become more willing to support the progressive revenue enhancement proposal.
Speaking at the seminar organized by the Association of Accounting Technicians of Sri Lanka, the Commissioner General also touched on Sri Lanka's debt situation.
The debt repayments is crucial in next 3 years, as it's amounted to a staggering rupees 7,000 billion. Out of that, the 7,000 billion, the repayment of rupees 1,900 billion is due in next year itself. Compared to the debts, the total revenue inflows expected from all sources is about rupees 2,260 billion.
UK's Finance Minister Philip Hammond said today Britain will submit its proposals on how to settle its financial obligations with the European Union ahead of an EU Council meeting next month. British Prime Minister Theresa May was warned on Friday that there was more work to be done to unlock Brexit talks as the European Union repeated an early December deadline for her to move on the divorce bill.
We want to make progress in the discussions at the December Council of the European Union, and the Europeans have asked us for more clarity on what we mean by meeting our obligation. It's not about demands, it's about what is properly due from the UK to the European Union under international law in accordance with the European treaties, and we've always been clear that it won't be easy to work out that number, but whatever is due, we will pay. We're a nation that honours our debts. And of course we'll negotiate hard where there is any question, any doubt about whether an item is payable or not. But those debts that are clear, of course we will pay.
On Friday, May met fellow EU leaders on the sidelines of a summit in Gothenburg, Sweden, to try to break the deadlock over how much Britain will pay on leaving the bloc in 16 months. She signalled again that she would increase an initial offer that is estimated at some 20 billion euros, about a third of what Brussels wants.
Meanwhile, negotiations in Mexico to update the North American Free Trade Agreement have not made much progress on tough US demands that could sink the 1994 trade pact. Officials from the United States, Canada and Mexico are meeting in Mexico City for the fifth of 7 planned rounds to update the North American Free Trade Agreement, from which US President Donald Trump has threatened to withdraw. The US administration has made demands that other members say are unacceptable, such as 5-year sunset clause and tightening so-called rules of origin to boost the North American content of automobiles. Back to our Brexit story now. UK's Finance Minister Philip Hammond said today Britain will submit its proposal on how to settle its financial obligations with the European Union ahead of an EU Council meeting next month. British Prime Minister Theresa May was warned on Friday that there was more work to be done to unlock Brexit talks, as the European Union repeated an early December deadline for her move on the divorce bill.
We want to make progress in the discussions at the December Council of the European Union, and the Europeans have asked us for more clarity on what we mean by meeting our obligation. It's not about demands, it's about what is properly due from the UK to the European Union under international law in accordance with the European treaties, and we've always been clear that it won't be easy to work out that number, but whatever is due, we will pay. We're a nation that honours our debts. And of course we'll negotiate hard where there is any question, any doubt about whether an item is payable or not. But those debts that are clear, of course we will pay.
Last week, May met fellow EU leaders on the sidelines of a summit in Gothenburg, Sweden, to try to break the deadlock over how much Britain will pay on leaving the bloc in 16 months. She signalled again that she would increase an initial offer that is estimated at some 20 billion euros, about a third of what Brussels wants.
While good progress on citizens' rights is being made, we need to see much more progress on Ireland and on a financial settlement. In order to avoid any ambiguities about our work calendar, I made it very clear to the Prime Minister May that this progress needs to happen at the beginning of December at the latest. If there is no sufficient progress by then, I will not be in a position to propose new guidelines on transition and the future relationship at the December European Council.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
The top US nuclear commander says he would resist US President Donald Trump if he ordered an illegal launch of nuclear weapons. Commander of the US Strategic Command, Air Force General John Hyten's remarks come amid tensions over North Korea's nuclear and missile programs and senators questioning Trump's authority on war and nuclear weapons.
Speaking at a security forum in Canada yesterday, Commander of the US Strategic Command, Air Force General John Hyten stressed that executing unlawful orders is a crime punishable by jail.
I provide advice to the President. He'll tell me what to do, and if it's illegal, guess what's going to happen?
You say no.
I'm going to say, Mr. President, that's illegal. And guess what he's going to do? He's going to say, what would be legal? And we'll come up with options of a mix of capabilities to respond to whatever the situation is, and that's the way it works.
Let's now take a look at some other stories making news across the world.
A day after Zimbabweans rallied to demand President Robert Mugabe's resignation, the country's ruling ZANU-PF party sacked Mugabe as party leader, replacing him with former Vice President Emmerson Mnangagwa. The party has given Mugabe 1 day to resign as president or face impeachment. Signals were detected from an Argentine submarine that has been missing since Wednesday with 44 crew on board. Argentina's defense ministry is now trying to trace the location of the 7 failed satellite calls received yesterday from the submarine. At least 19 people were killed and 8 others were injured in a fire that erupted in a housing block in the Chinese capital, Beijing. It took firefighters several hours to bring the blaze under control. The cause is not yet known.
You are watching Sri Lanka's trusted news brand, Derana 24/7.
Openers Lokesh Rahul and Shikhar Dhawan restored India's dominance over Sri Lanka as they built up a 166-run partnership, putting India ahead by 49 runs. India was at 171 for the loss of 1 wicket at stumps on the 4th day of the first test against Sri Lanka at Eden Gardens in Kolkata.
Sri Lanka began day 4 at 165 for the loss of 4 wickets in their first innings. Niroshan Dikwala fell for 35 while Rangana Herath stood firm, knocking 67 off 105 balls. Sri Lanka lost wickets at regular intervals as Mohammad Shami and Bhuvaneshwar Kumar restricted the visitors to 294, clinching 4 wickets each. India started their second innings strongly as openers Lokesh Rahul and Shikhar Dhawan both scored half-centuries. Dhawan departed for 94 while Rahul stood unbeaten on 73 at the end of the day's play.
He's feeling a little better.
Belgium's David Goffin pulled a shock win over 6-time champion Roger Federer in the semi-final of the ATP Finals in London yesterday. Grigor Dimitrov rallied for a 3-set win over Jack Sock yesterday in the second semi-final to advance to an ATP Finals showdown with surprise finalist David Goffin.
It was a challenging match for David Goffin, having lost all 6 previous meetings with Swiss favourite Roger Federer. Coming back from a set-down, Goffin staged a remarkable performance, thrashing Federer with an improbable 2-6, 6-3, 6-4 win. In the second semi-final, Bulgarian Grigor Dimitrov produced another classy display to beat American Jack Sock 4-6, 6-0, 6-3.
In entertainment news, glamour and beauty took the floor as the 67th Miss World pageant was worked off in China last night. India's Manushi Chillar won the coveted Miss World 2017 crown, becoming the 6th Indian woman to win the title, 17 years after actress Priyanka Chopra's win.
The Miss World 2017 beauty pageant held in Sanya, China, brought together participants from over 100 countries across the world vying for the crown. Contestants from England, France, India, Kenya and Mexico emerged into the final round. They faced a question and answer session during which Miss India in particular won the hearts of judges and the audience.
Which profession deserves the highest salary and why?
When you talk about salary, I don't think it's just about cash, but I feel it's the love and respect that you give to someone. And all mothers, they just sacrifice so much for their kids. So the profession which deserves the highest salary, the highest respect and love, should be of a mother.
Here are the results of the 2017 Miss World contest.
The first and the second runners-up were Miss England Stephanie Hill and Miss Mexico Andrea Meza.
And Miss World 2017 is India.
Miss India Manushi Chillar, a 20-year-old medical student from Haryana, clinched the coveted title.
Miss World 2017.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Other Derana 24/7.
Let's now cross over to Sadhanu Peka at the Other Derana Weather Centre with your forecast first evening edition for the next 24 hours.
Good evening and welcome to the Weather Centre. This is your forecast first for the next 24 hours. Tomorrow's temperatures will average at around 27 degrees Celsius in coastal areas, maxing out at 29 degrees in some places. Cooler temperatures in the low 20s will prevail in the central hills. Now a low pressure zone will form across the island during the course of the day, spelling widespread showers and thunder showers, particularly in the western half of the island. That's it from the Weather Centre tonight. Up next is your City by City forecast.
And before we go, we'd like to take you to Mexico, which officially opened its monarch butterfly biosphere reserve recently to herald the arrival of tens and thousands of monarch butterflies on their annual southerly migration. Millions of butterflies embark on the arduous journey from as far north as Canada down to Mexico, but only a fraction survive the migration. Thank you for joining us and have a pleasant evening.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Other Derana 24/7.